My name's Ryan Gander and I live in Suffolk and I work here in London. It's quite hard to explain what I do because it's quite varied and it ranges across lots of different media. So some things could be clothes or children's book or traditional art forms like you'd expect, like photography or painting, sculpture. But if there's one thing that sort of ties it all together conceptually, I guess it's storytelling. The work's called The Fourth Baron of Egerton's 16-Plumed Bird of Paradise. It's a bit of a mouthful. And essentially, it's a stuffed bird. But it's a stuffed bird that's made from 18 different birds and mammals from New Guinea. Allegedly. It's an odd-looking thing because it has a little tongue sticking out. Birds don't have tongues. And it has two ribbon tails that are very, very long, 16 plumes on its head, which are antennas with coloured dots along the top. And when it opens its wingspan, it produces, in black and white feathers, a sort of painting of a tribal mask. So there's 3 works in the collection, and they're all byproducts of the same story. One of them is the actual physically stuffed bird in a glass case. It would fit best in some sort of stately home on some old boy's desk next to his hunting gear. And then the other 2 works, one of them is 2 framed newspaper articles that I wrote. They're sort of fictional narratives, but one's done in the voice of the Daily Mail from the 80s, one's done in the voice or the tone of the Times newspaper from the 1800s, when the bird was meant to have first been discovered. So there's these 2 opposing perspectives on the discovery of the bird. And then the 3rd work in the collection is a photograph, black and white, it's sort of sepia tone print of the bird, the stuffed bird, in Tatton Hall, the stately home, which belonged to Lord Egerton, who discovered it. Lord Egerton was the Baron of Tatton Park, Tatton Hall, which is the National Trust house where it was made to be exhibited originally. And the story is that he was an explorer and a bird specialist, and he went to New Guinea to look for examples of birds that we didn't know yet to exist. And he brought the bird back to England where he presented it to the Queen, and he actually did a few ritual dances that he'd experienced the bird doing in its natural habitat for the Queen. And the bird, well, it died obviously because it was not in its natural habitat, and it was stuffed, and then it was in the V&A museum for a while. And that's the story. I guess it's like my imagination being turned up to number 10 and imagining a different history and using the different devices and languages that I have around me, things like graphic design and performance and taxidermy. So putting this story through those devices so that when it's in the world, it becomes believable and it produces this other reality. So I didn't set out to make a stuffed bird, a fictional bird. I set out to write an interesting story and then provide the evidence for that story to exist and to make a sort of para-possible history that runs alongside reality where this bird exists and these events exist. It could be possible, but it is fiction. It's amazing to have your work in the British Council collection. I mean, any collection's good because you exchange art for money, which means the money means you can make more art. But the British Council collection, essentially I'm British, so it's a bit of a feather in my cap. I hear that the works are going to Japan to an exhibition, which makes me really happy. It's great that they're being seen by people. And it's really nice that they're seen in a different culture, in a different context. It totally changes the interpretation, the meaning of the work, which for me is that's what it's all about, really.